Hello, and welcome to ISACA Winnipeg Chapter's First She Leads Tech event. My name is Valerie Romano, and I'm a director with ISACA Winnipeg Chapter. And I'll be your co-host for a short time today for our webcast. Our webcast is Breaking Boundaries, Influencing Change Through She. But before we begin, even though we are meeting virtually, it's important in the spirit of reconciliation that we acknowledge that collectively we live and work on treaty land. And as we acknowledge the treaties made on these territories, we must also recognize harms and mistakes of the past and the injustices suffered by Indigenous people today. Our responsibility is to learn more about what that means and dedicate ourselves to moving forward in partnership with Indigenous communities into a spirit of collaboration and reconciliation. Okay, technology knows no gender, no color, no age. It makes no assumptions, holds no biases, has no bounds. When used for good, technology can level the most uneven playing fields and better the world. She Leads Tech is an ISACA program designed to push this movement forward. And in delivering on this mission today, I'm delighted to introduce you to Arti Gadia. Arti was chosen one of the top 20 women in cybersecurity and was presented with the Honoree Award by Women in Security and Resilience Alliance and IT World Canada. Over the last 16 years as a cybersecurity sales professional, Arti has been contributing towards creating a safer digital world. She joined BugCrowd to build their international business and works out of Vancouver. Outside of her role with BugCrowd, she is passionate about diversity and has a mission to be a voice, influence change, and to close the gap in STEM and in leadership. She founded Stand Out to Lead to increase diversity within boards through board workshops for women. She also founded She, Sharing Her Empowerment. It's hard to believe she gets any work done. To help establish local chapters within organizations with the mission to be a collective voice to close the gender diversity gap. Arti volunteers for ISACA She Leads Tech in Vancouver to build partnerships across Canada and sits on the Vancouver board of the Open Web Application Security Project, with the aim to increase female speakers through recruiting, coaching, and mentoring. And without further ado, please join me in welcoming Arti of She and her expert panel. Thank you for coming today.
Fantastic. Thank you. For anyone, if you've unmuted, please mute yourself. And I'm going to stop share. I'm going to bring this back. Fantastic. Well, thank you, Val, for that lovely introduction. And thank you, ISACA Winnipeg Chapter and She Leads Tech for this opportunity. So first is my greetings to all of you. Jambo, namaste, bonjour, konnichiwa, and greetings. So before we get started, this event is meant to be interactive. So my first thing is let's get the conversation started. And in the chat, please, in Zoom chat, as you can all see the Zoom chat there, please share your role, your company, and one fact about you. So for example, I'm Arti. I work for BugCrowd, and my role is a cybersecurity sales professional. And a fun fact about me is that I am from Kenya. So please get this chat started. Please, all of you, I would love to see all of your participation here. Okay, I want to start seeing some messages in the chat. Fantastic. In terms of agenda, as part of the introductions, you'll get to hear our personal story and why diversity is important. We will then share our mission and how to influence a change within your own organization through starting up a She chapter. We've created some fun exercises. I mentioned this is going to be very interactive, and we're looking forward to your participation. And the goal for today is to break boundaries, to educate, to take action, make changes with intention, and influence a change. So let's start off with introductions from my side. You've heard my introduction that Val has said. So, Mari, if you can share your background and your journey and why this is important to you.
Absolutely. Again, thank you so much for having me, and so glad to be here. This is always a fantastic topic to continue to stay aware and discuss diversity in the workplace. My name is Madi Kemp. I'm head of people at Bug Crowd, and I see my fellow team here on the line with me. But I have been in HR for over 25 years, and I couldn't be more excited than being in HR now. We are moving the needle, we're making change, and I am excited to be able to drive diversity with intention, which is what you'll see a little bit later in the deck. But thank you for having me, and glad to be here.
Fantastic. Andy.
Hey everyone, Andy Burtis. I'm the head of marketing at Bug Crowd. Super happy to be here. I had the opportunity of getting very involved in a women's employee resource group in my last employer at McKesson, where I was for about 13 years. And I completely got religion as a result of being part of that group. So when I came to Bug Crowd, I was fortunate enough to meet with Artie and learn what Artie was up to. And I just said, I'm in. So here I am.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Andy. Katie.
Hi, I'm Katie Kraswicki. I'm a strategic account manager based out of our San Francisco office. And when I started at Bug Crowd, I was super excited to hear all about She, which Artie had just started, and really excited to be a member of the team. And it really aligns with, my passion for gender diversity. At my previous role, I actually was on Telstra's International Gender Diversity Council, so got to work with women across the globe on different initiatives, and really excited to do this at Bug Crowd as well.
Fantastic. Megan.
Hi, it's lovely to meet all of you. Part of my cough. It's nice to meet you guys. I'm Megan McCloskey. I'm an account executive here at Bug Crowd. The reason I'm involved with She comes from a personal place. I grew up with a single working mom in South Texas, and I saw firsthand from a very young age a lot of the issues that women can face in their careers and in the workplace. And I've become involved with a number of women's empowerment organizations over my career. And I'm just really happy to be here helping and lending hand in any way I can with She.
Fantastic. Well, thanks so much, Megan. So why is this important? Why stand up for equality? I'm going to share a little bit about a bit more details about my journey. As you've heard my background and why I'm passionate about it. But back to my journey. In 2004, my husband and I moved to Canada. And as a new immigrant, and Omena, if you remember when we're talking about being new in the country and the struggles we faced, right? I had to take a step back just to get a job. There was this entry-level position, which was a BDR position where you're making calls and generating leads for the organization, and it was for an antivirus company. And that's basically how I entered into this industry. We've all had a journey where we faced a bias. For me, I faced several obstacles in this industry, from getting into sales as I didn't fit the personality type, to barriers getting into senior leadership positions. I heard all sorts of reasons. Your location is a barrier. So that's why you can't get a promotion. You need to be in this location. You don't have experience in senior executive roles. You need to network beyond your sales function. You need to make the ask. You need to be more vocal. You need to be more visible. I got all sorts of advice, all sorts of feedback. And I'm sure all of you at some point in your career, you may have heard of these reasons, right? Sometimes it gets frustrating, but I was determined to figure this out. Every feedback that I got where I needed to be more visible, if they said, hey, you need to move to Boston, my answer was, I will move, right? I did everything that I could potentially. And 5 years ago, I began browsing LinkedIn, started connecting, because the whole aspect of connection and networking. I started connecting with some of my colleagues that I worked with in 2005. And I began to notice that all of them are in senior executive positions. And I wanted to learn from them. It was more curiosity and more about learning. How could what are they doing that I need to learn, right? And so I called two individuals and I said, hey, what did you do, right? What did you do differently? And how did you get into your executive leadership role, 10 years after? And the advice I was given is just ask. Sounds simple, right? Just make the ask. I'm like, okay. So I began my journey and I found my mentor and my sponsor in 2018. I started learning through my mentor. And, back to that one reason, hey, you're not visible enough, or you need to go outside of your sales function and start connecting with others. That year, there was a sales kickoff. And I remember, just make the ask, right? And the whole company was attending, and it was going to be in Boston. So there were going to be 1,000 people, 1,000 in total that were going to be there. And I basically wanted to make sure that I could find a way of how I could get onto that stage. And I reached out to my mentor and my sponsor, and I asked him, and I said, please, can you help me get a slot to present at that conference? And I gave him the idea of my thoughts, and I asked him, I'm flexible, just give me a slot. And he actually promised, and he committed that he will introduce me to some of the presenters. And so what he first did is like, hey, there's this presenter, let me reach out to him, introduce you to him, and get you both to work on one of the topics. So he did that introduction. I spoke to that presenter, and unfortunately the presenter said, you know what, based on what I've prepared, I've already found other speakers. I don't have any room to add you, but if any of the other speakers had decline or anything like that, I'll let you know. He's like, I wish I'd known. I really want to help you, but I've already chosen my 4 speakers and I can't make changes. And I can't go back to these individuals and tell them, hey, I want to swap you for somebody else, right? And I was like, yeah, no, I totally understand. So I went back to my mentor, and then he introduced me to another speaker. The other speaker then said, hey, you know what? This is my first time presenting. I've already created my script, and I don't know how I'm going to incorporate you to present with me. So I was like, okay, I totally understand. Did that 3 times. And my mentor himself said, it's like, this is not that easy, is it? And I'm like, no, it isn't, right? I've made the ask and you've made the commitment. I really appreciate it. And so what I did was I said, okay, you know what? I'm just going to create my own opportunity. I went to our chief people officer and Amy at that time, and I said, hey, Amy, I've got this idea. And let's create over a lunch or during the session, let's talk about a very important topic, which is women in cybersecurity, and let's do like a fireside chat. She loved the idea, the chief people officer. She loved the idea. And so she said, let's go to someone on the steering committee for this conference. And so we invited Erica to our meeting immediately. She loved the idea. And she's like, okay, you know what? I love this idea. Let's figure out, I need to go back and pitch this to the steering committee. So now, as you can see, as I was like, at least I don't have to do the pitch this time. So she went and did that pitch to the steering committee, and she said, hey, this is what we would like to do. And the answer for her was, hey, this is a really great topic. It's very important, but we've already created the agenda, right? So there I am, like, I don't know what she's going to come back with. And she was like, okay, so what can we do? And they said, what we can do, because she was not willing to accept no. She's like, what we can do is treat this as grassroots efforts. We'll give you this room for about 40 people. And on one of the days at lunchtime, already can gather 40 women, and you can have this session in this breakout room during lunch, right? We can't put this on the agenda because we've already confirmed the details. So Erica came back to me and she said, hey, she was worried how I would take this. And she's like, look, this is what I managed to get, grassroots efforts. And there's this opportunity. What do you think? What are your thoughts? I was ecstatic. I was happy. I was so happy about this opportunity. Because I didn't get a no, right? I got something. It wasn't what I wanted, but I got further along. And I said, absolutely. So we began preparing. We got some speakers within the organization. We titled it Women Who Inspire. On Boxing Day, on the 26th of December, I put an email out to the 120 women within the organization saying, hey, we're doing this session. If you're interested, because there's limited capacity for only 40, only the first 40 that sign up will attend it. And through that, literally after sending that, it was through a Google Drive spreadsheet. I added all these steering committees so they can see who's registering. In under 5 minutes, that spreadsheet, the Google Drive, was lit up like a Christmas tree. Everyone was signing up in under 5 minutes on Boxing Day. And I had 30 extra women because we had gone past 40. We were at 70. 30 women reaching out to me saying, hey, I really want to attend. Another one said, hey, I'm on holiday. I can't access. Can you please register for me? Others saying, hey, I really want to be on this session. So I sent all those emails, 30 emails to the steering committee. And I said, how would you like me to answer? And in less than an hour, they got us a bigger room for 100 people. And the bonus, they also made sure that lunch was delivered, so we had the full hour to have this session. And I was amazed. I didn't know what would happen. Literally, I had no idea what would happen. And this is when I realized the power of a collective voice to influence a change. This is what inspired me to start up a group within the organization with the goal to be a collective voice. I reached out to one of the VPs as she had an amazing background, and she gave me the idea of how to get this started. In fact, the name of this chapter, She, Sharing Her Empowerment, came up from the committee leaders. And for a long time in our industry, leaders, or not even just in our industry, just industry leaders believe that the reason why women aren't in leadership positions are because women lack ambition, women lack confidence or presence, or she isn't qualified or ready for that position. And when you share your ambition or confidence, oftentimes you may not be supported, you may be discouraged, and you may not get what you want. But I want to encourage each and every one of you to not give up. Don't change who you are. Be authentic and use this example of how to influence a change. You'll get to hear from Megan and Katie on our mission and how you can start up a She chapter. And to sum up, promoting gender diversity in our industry is important, but it's easier said than done. According to Cybercrime magazine, women represent 20% of the global security workforce. 20% is low, and we need to continue pushing for more women. As we move into C-suite, from a recent McKinsey report, the numbers went up from 17% in 2015 to 21% in 2019. At this rate, 1% per year, it would take us to 2050 before we see parity. Laws have been implemented, and while some acknowledge that legislation can lead to progress, it doesn't address the root cause of lack of gender diversity in company leadership and on boards. Research has consistently shown that diversity and inclusive workplaces experience higher engagement, performance, and results. I read an article from Robert, the founder of Elevate Security. What they found is that as candidates see the investments they've made in diversity, it's proactively attracting candidates who share their values. To quote from the article, Robert says, "It's turning out to make the recruitment side of my role easier," which is great. That's coupled with actual results. We've been nailing our milestones on product and sales, and what we've released is loved by our customers. So it's a great story to see how an organization has embraced diversity and the impact that they've seen in overall within the culture and how the business has grown. Okay, so this takes us to our first breakout session. I said, this is going to be very interactive. So here's the first breakout session. Who is responsible to solve the gender diversity problem? And in your breakout session, over 4 to 5 minutes, you'll have to decide or determine or discuss whether it's legislation, is it women, is it HR, is it leaders, who is responsible for this problem? And secondly, why is it worth solving? In each of your breakout rooms, if one person can take the lead in collecting all the information, because once we come back, if that individual or the whole group can share 1 or 2 answers from your discussion from this breakout session. Okay, so let me figure out how we can break out rooms. There we go. Assign automatically. So I'm going to, since we have about 50, I'm going to divide it into 6 breakout rooms. Well, let's do, yeah, 6 breakout rooms. Is everyone clear on the task? Yeah.
Got it.
Fantastic. I'm going to create this. I'm going to make sure this works.
Yep. Thank you. We're going in.
Awesome. How was it?
Really good. I like the format and a chance to chat about. I'm from a community college in Canada, a polytechnic, and so probably a bit of a different perspective. But it's really cool to just hear some of the, really frontline versus. I brought up about talking about youth because I think these ideas they take hold and are informed early, so the earlier we can start shifting what is informed is the better.
Awesome. Yes.
No, it's great.
Good. Okay, I'm seeing 26, 27. I think we had about almost 50, so I need to see the numbers come up.
Artie, you're doing a great job as the techie here.
Trying my best.
It's all
Thank
working.
you.
It's all working.
Thanks to Katie K. She's been the master trainer here.
We couldn't even screen share, so it's all you.
Awesome. Okay, so let me go back. Okay, so how did you find it? Let's hear from room number 1. I don't know if you got to see which room breaks you were in. I didn't even.
We couldn't see which room we were in.
No. Okay, so whoever was.
We were in 6. Andrew, we were in 6.
Okay, so I'm going to start picking. Can one volunteer start off? What happened? What your answer was, and quickly just summarize. Okay, Rashmi, let's get you started.
So what the discussion, like everyone has the equal, maybe equal, what to say, like equal rights to follow the entity. But the thing is, like anything, the top management has to decide, and it should come via HR. And once that is done, then so that once the processes has been fixed, then I think people will follow them. Maybe if a manager come and say that you please follow this, no one will listen. Maybe it depends on the people, right? But when it comes from the higher people, and we know that this is what we need to follow, so that even though if the manager says, we will think about it, but normally we don't think about it, right? So I think even everyone has equal responsibility, but since everything should come from the higher management people, they have. So once the process, that's more important. So once there is a process in place, even people who is not willing also, they have to start following it.
Fantastic. Okay, so from a leadership perspective, did we hear a different answer from leadership? Can we hear from somebody else quickly? Summarize what your thoughts are.
Group number 6, we talked that it's the responsibility is on everybody. We find that some of us, or most of us, have our mentors as men, and sometimes the owners are we women. We don't tend to support each other, especially those trying to climb the ladder. We talked about the fact of doing the very best we can in our own small way, irrespective of your position, and then hoping things get better. We also recognize that there's been a change since the 1970s that some of us have, as Valerie had experienced, and where we are now, but we still have a lot of work to do. And it's the responsibility of everyone involved, and especially we women, to step up and support each other. And we provided specific examples to illustrate each case.
Awesome, fantastic. So leadership is one group. From a leadership, everybody's from your group. Did we hear any other different answer? Just the last one, because we're running out of time. So one more group, if you want to share if it's anything different from leadership or everybody. Who would like to volunteer? Come on, one more.
You can pick one.
What about room number 2? I don't know which room.
We were number 2.
Okay, there we go.
We had basically the same thing. I mean, we thought that it was everyone's responsibility to take this on, and that we should make an impression on our HR leaders, our government leaders, women as well as men, as well as women, to promote the idea that it's everyone's responsibility to be a little bit more open-minded, be a little bit more creative, recognize people's and ladies and gentlemen's challenges equally, as well as the ladies. You know, it's important that there's some strength in numbers as well. And I understand the other points of view where leaders have to take charge, senior management has to take charge. We need senior managers to I guess, give the blessing, but we also need to show some power in numbers, strength in numbers, to say, we all want this. And as whatever leaders we are, HR leaders, legislators, senior managers, this is all something that we need to pay attention to and be a little bit more patient with and thoughtful with and considerate about.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And to just add to that, we basically agreed that it's everybody's responsibility to promote.
Yeah.
And everyone brings a different characteristic to value of their creativity, their strength, their skill set. We're saying it didn't matter with its culture. It didn't matter if it's their age. Everyone brings a different kind of a skill to the group, which makes it stronger, and having that balance.
Yeah. Yeah.
Fantastic. Okay, that's awesome. Okay, so thank you for your participation. Yes, I think all of you got the idea behind this. Just to share this, is solving the gender diversity problem shouldn't be a woman's problem to solve, or an HR issue to handle, or a legislation to be implemented, or a movement to occur. It should be everybody's problem to solve. Each and every one of us can make a change and can make an impact. So I'm going to hand this over to Katie Kay. She's going to share the mission, a little bit about SHE, and then Megan will take over. Or we might do another breakout session, and then Megan and Andy and Mary will share how to get this a chapter started.
All right, yeah, thanks so much, Artie. So with our mission statement, you can see components of what we all kind of discussed in our breakout rooms today. And so we, the women of Bug Crowd, are planting a seed. We believe that 20% just isn't good enough. We believe we can all do better. We will use our voices collectively to initiate change, grow our careers, and elevate each other. We stand by each other in our mission to make this a better place to work for everyone. So kind of tying into what Artie was speaking to earlier, that cybersecurity industry as a whole is around 20% women, and that's around the same amount that Bug Crowd is right now. And, you know, all the statistics show us that diversity, all forms of diversity really matter within an organization. And how do we work specifically towards reaching different gender diversity as well as other diversity goals within our organization? So not only creating kind of a safe space to help women at Bug Crowd on their career journeys, but also sharing that with the rest of the company as well, and creating change within our organization. So I guess the next question is, you know, how did we do this? So when we started, we had those who would like become members of SHE, and essentially we meet every 6 to 8 weeks, and there's a new theme or topic based on a survey that we did at the beginning of the year. So initially asking SHE members what interested them the most and what they wanted help with or to learn more about. And so, you know, networking, mentorship, imposter syndrome were big topics. And we've had different sessions, sometimes bringing in outside speakers, doing fireside chats, as well as doing peer-to-peer education. And not only doing it within the SHE, but also sharing that with Bug Crowd as a whole. So we'll have cross company events. And then we also had a presentation to talk more about what we're doing with She on the company level. We are, of course, working with Mari and Andy, and we also are working with our CEO, Ashish Gupta, and Casey Ellis, who's our CTO, on different goals and initiatives to change gender diversity at BugCrowd, and also presented these initiatives to our board in June. So now I'll turn it over.
Okay, so we'll start off with how to start up a She chapter.
So we start by garnering interest from the company. So working with others, seeing if others are interested, learning more about some of their problems, and if we should start moving forward. Number 2, defining your mission and goals. This is something that Katie just went through. We went through with our She leaders as well as our different members at this point and started refining that down. Next. And then promoting internally. So we introduce ourselves to our organization, to our leadership teams, and really making sure that the company was familiar with us and what we would be doing and working to promote. Number 4. And then finding an executive sponsor. With that, I will turn that over to one of our primary executive sponsors, Mari, and I'll let her take it away.
Hi there, everyone. It actually resonates with the question that we broke out into groups to discuss who really is responsible. And, like we all came up with, essentially, we all are responsible. Great, we know that. But what holds us back, and what are some things we can do to sort of push it through? And part of being responsible for this cause is to also leverage your executive team and find an ally to work with you in your endeavors to really highlight the importance of diversity within an organization. So the reason why an executive sponsor is critically important, because what I found is if HR is not in the boardroom, is not in the conversations around growth and development and diversity, most likely those things are not a priority. And so what it says is maybe some of these things are goals for every organization. If you see D&I as a goal for most organizations out there, but it becomes like analysis paralysis because the actual execution never happens, because nothing within the organization connects those dots between goals and checking the boxes with intention. So when I found out about She, when Artie brought me in, I came on board in BugCrowd in May. It was really important for me to join an organization with the intent to drive impact and change. And part of that is, yes, diversity and inclusion is a consistent problem around the world, right? But why? Why is diversity even important? And a lot of executives cannot answer that question. And so we've been doing things with She to educate the organization. Let's understand and let's make sure we are not assuming that everybody just knows, like this is the right thing to do, this is the right box to check. But why is diversity important? And so with that said, is driving diversity with intention is something that I implemented at BugCrowd, and that your MBOs are connecting to diversity, your diversity retention, and now Andy and I were talking about even building career plans and development. And let's understand what diversity or diversifying the workplace is not just about recruiting and hiring, it's also about promoting and developing. And so making sure that those sides are working on all sides requires a lot of work and initiative to pull those things together and really make it happen. But you have to have that alliance and those allies to bring those conversations to the top as a priority. It's also important that you have someone who can speak on your behalf to make that impact. And that's why I'm so happy to be a part of She. So in terms of what needs to be done to really drive and make change within your organization, find your ally, help them understand and align with what you're doing so that they can align organizational initiatives accordingly. And also make sure you are partnering with someone who's able to speak up on your behalf. Not someone who just attends all the meetings but doesn't do anything behind the scenes. You got to watch out for that as well. And make sure that you tap into people like Artie, who was already doing it before. because it's not easy to break ground. And sometimes you will need help, you will need coaching, you will have questions, but it's really important to do it together with a team. And anyone in the organization can truly do it, but make sure you partner accordingly so you can drive that impact and change even faster. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thanks. Andy, build allies.
All right, this is my stint. All right, perfect. Well, I'm just, I feel super honored to be part of this group. I've really learned a lot from Artie. And as I said in my previous job at McKesson, I really got religion around employee resource groups. And specifically, I became the executive sponsor for McKesson's employee resource group. So I think they can really make a huge difference. And I just jotted down 3 things that I think allies can do, they need to do in order to really be effective. The first one is leading by example, which may sound obvious, but it's not always that obvious. And I've had a kind of a near term sort of choice that I've had to make, which I think illustrates the point, where I have an open role on my team. The number of candidates available for this open role, as Artie and Mari and the rest of the gang knows only too well, tends to skew kind of male. And I was very clear with the HR team, the recruiting team, that I wanted to extra prioritize finding a person for this role who was both not male and not white. It's not to say that I wouldn't consider someone who was not male and not white, but like I'm 90% committed to finding someone who is not male and not white. And in probably, I think it's only taken about 3 to 4 weeks, we have an outstanding candidate who I presented a verbal offer to yesterday, and I hope that she is going to accept today. And I'm just super excited about it. So number one, in terms of being a good ally, lead by example, like really do it. Don't just pay lip service to it. Your actions speak a lot louder than your words. The second one I would say, and I like the discussion around this role of leadership as well as role of, kind of this ground level support. I think that as a leader, as an ally, you have to be really clear on what the change levers are, and you have to be willing to pull those levers. And I'm just going to pop a quick blog here in the chat that I wrote when I was at McKesson that frankly was very disruptive. Mari, I hope that you will respect this blog, but frankly, I got into a lot of trouble at McKesson for this blog because it broke a little bit of glass, and you'll take a look at it, you'll see what it says, but basically compensation is, I would argue, the most important lever when it comes to leveling the playing field. And I think that allies need to shine sunlight on compensation and make sure that we are making decisions at the executive level that are in service of the future state that we're trying to achieve in terms of fair compensation, regardless of background and so forth. So I think that finding those change levers and pulling them is super, super important. And then the last point that I would highlight is the notion of male solidarity. There's this kind of unspoken male solidarity that exists. And I don't think most men would even acknowledge it exists, but it definitely exists. And I think that one of the things that allies need to do is to call out male solidarity when it is on display. And Artie has been really helpful in giving me questions to be thinking about when I'm in meetings with other leaders and specifically other men that will allow me to essentially call out male solidarity where I see it. It can be a way of talking about people. It can be a way of judging performance. It can be a way of evaluating people through a very male lens, which only perpetuates the negative situation. And so I think that identifying and calling out male solidarity is a really important job for an ally to do effectively in order to create the right environment for equity and equality.
Fantastic. Thank you. Thank you, Andy, for sharing that. Okay, so this is where we're going to go to our next breakout. This time you only have 2 minutes, not 5 minutes, so 2 minutes. What are best practices you've observed for creating support and momentum for women's employee resource groups?
If I can also just recommend, if during the breakout groups, pick one person who will be the speaker, and then we'll just flow from there when we come back. Thank you.
Fantastic. Okay, so let me get this going. Breakout room. And Mari and Katie, I'm going to swap you and split you, by the way. So you might be in one. I'm going to remove one of you and move you to somewhere else, just so you see that happening.
Awesome.
Okay, I see everyone joining in. Actually, the breakout rooms, coordinating that is getting easier and easier the more I practice.
Yeah, I know it works really well.
Awesome. Okay, we've still got a few more that are joining back in. Okay, I think we have everybody. Perfect. Okay, so the rooms that didn't get to speak in the first half, I mean, in that first breakout, if you can the leader within each group, because you were in the same groups, if one person can share what your thoughts are.
Here, I'll hop in on behalf of our group. So one of the major things that kind of we talked about, short session, but we hadn't seen a lot of, very successful women's or diversity empowerment of organizations within an organization. So what we thought was specifically relevant was purposeful hiring, as Andy had covered. That was something that we thought would really help with that, considering we haven't really necessarily seen that in the organizations that we've been a member of so far.
Fantastic. Okay. Someone else who didn't speak earlier in the first exercise. I don't know if I heard room number 3.
So we talked a little bit that the sometimes it's easier in government than private. So I'm in a Crown Corporation, so we have a diversity officer. But I also talked about that. So our engineering society has a goal of 30 by 30, so 30% women in engineering by the year 2030. But a lot of that is also looking at if you need to get there, you have to have them coming out of university. So that means you have to have 30% of women coming out of university. So therefore, you need to have 30 or more than 30%. And also, so going back to the education part, making sure that you also have lots of people in the education stream to get to the point of also in the job roles eventually. So that definitely applies to the security point of view. That you have to have some of the education components as well to have that job pool to start filling that, I guess.
Fantastic. And then one more from a breakout room that we didn't hear because we had 6. So we heard 3, 4, 5. Who else is left? Any takers?
Yeah, I would like to take it. Room 4.
Okay.
So yeah, and we discussed that mentorship is very important. So that as previously the point was raised regarding education and leadership that can be imbibed for women. And also if we emphasize more on diversity and inclusivity, having a team which ensures that any issues are recognized and they are resolved. That would help in de-stressing and de-elevating the issues that are faced currently. So, yeah.
Fantastic. Awesome. So we've got a few minutes left to wrap up. Unfortunately, we wouldn't be able to do the third exercise. But just to wrap up, Megan, if you want to just quickly highlight the journey we've had here.
Yeah, sure. Happy to. So we kicked off the She Committee in December of 2019. And then we had our first meeting with our members in January of 2020. one of our kind of first takeaways from our first introductions was to introduce she during your one-on-ones with your managers, making sure that the awareness is there, that obviously this is something that you're concerned with and involved with. That really helped get a lot of traction, specifically with my own manager. Then we opened it up to a company-wide town hall. For me, this is what I saw as as the largest catalyst to the interest for she. It was a surprising number of non-female members, tons of feedback from everyone, and providing a lot of education to us as well. Then we moved forward with our workshops. As Katie mentioned, we have workshops between every 6 to 8 weeks covering things like internal networking and how to combat imposter syndrome. And then finally, we introduced ourselves to the board this past summer, and they gave us some really great information about how to move forward and how they've seen success with some of their teams before as well. Okay. And then just regarding the impact of she, these are some quotes taken from our entire team scattered across the nation and scattered across the world. A lot of this is taking back things related to our workshops and also creating a knowledge base within, the leadership and the managerial teams as well. And we've really seen a great deal of change and interest.
Fantastic. So we don't have time for breakout number 3. So just to wrap up, where do we go from here, right? This is what each and every one of us have to think. What do we need to do? Because we've all agreed in the beginning, this is everybody's problem. Where do we go? How can we, each one of us, make a change? How can we make a difference? Not only within the organization, but also externally. And whatever you do, as you've heard from Andy, you've heard from Katie, you've heard from Megan, you've heard from Andy, you've heard from all of us, just working with a group of people, having that collective voice, right? Reach out to any one of us. We're here to help because each and every one of us can make a change, right? We can make a difference. So with that, I want to say thank you. I'm going to hand this over back to Val. I hope you found this useful, informative, and of course, please reach out to us. Please connect with us. We look forward to solving the problem together.
I just want to thank you, Artie. This has been such a great presentation. It's exciting because it's just such an important issue. And I hope that everyone can take away from this some more helpful and creative ideas about how to further your own career, but also how to further others, because it's so important. And I hope that that everyone gains from this, and I know I sure have. I'd like to just thank Amina Babalola, Leigh Watanabe, Mark Morrison, and Phil Pack for getting me to this point, and Artie as well, because this is the first one for me. And thank you everyone for your patience and attention. And I would like to get feedback from everyone. I've posted my email address. It's val.romano@isaca-winnipeg or wpg.org. But we respect your time and we want to make sure it's valuable. I know this one is. So thank you very much. We look forward to seeing you again. Bye, Artie.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.